Thanks, welcome.
I know, I was just waiting for him to.
I gotta touch my face a bunch.
All right.
Do you have to check levels? I'm good.
Yeah, we're good.
That's okay. Cool. Yeah. All right, take it away.
Yeah, we're okay. We're okay. You know, it is what it is.
Bass boost.
All right. Welcome to Backseat Directing,
where we talk about movies, TV shows, comics, and more.
We're your hosts,
Andrew
and Aaron. Today with Shats.
We post new episodes every Monday and Thursday.
And on today's episode, we're doing an Alien franchise breakdown.
3, 2, 1.
Action.
Bum 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 bum.
You left me there all by myself.
The timing fell off. I don't know why.
That was weird. Chats, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you back.
Happy to be here. I've been good.
That's awesome.
Things are well.
Let's stop talking about you and let's get into our main subject today, and that is the Alien franchise.
With Alien Romulus coming out, as of this recording, it's coming out this weekend. We are going to answer some of your guys' big questions. We're going to go through the Alien franchise, talk about what happened in each movie. We'll do a review of the events of the current 6 Alien movies. I can't tell you what happened in Alien vs. Predator or Requiem. I'm not going to do it. But I watched 6 movies in 6 days, and I think that's enough.
So that's pretty impressive.
So we're going to review what happened in all the Alien movies, and then we're going to get into like the nitty-gritty of talking about the kind of different aspects of the movie that we're excited to talk about, which ones are the best, the worst, the plots, and how CGI evolved over time, the different directors, all kinds of good stuff for you.
Andrew actually pulled a Shats and wrote down all his notes on a piece of paper. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I felt bad about doing that last time, so I have mine on my phone, so we swapped.
Before we get into like the breakdown of the franchise as a whole and then each individual movie, Shats, what are your overall quick thoughts of the franchise?
Overall, love the franchise. I think it is still to date one of the coolest creatures ever concepted. So cool that I feel like they overuse them a little bit in some of the later movies, because there's something really magical about those first couple where it really was like, what is this thing that I am seeing?
I think it's the practical effects.
The practical effects.
And the mystery.
And a creature design that literally no one had seen about before, because who was reading H.R. Geiger's books? Like, really. Like, it was just beautiful, beautiful stuff. And the fact that they're making a 7th main franchise movie coming out this week. First one was 1979. So
crazy.
This movie still has legs, and people still want to see this creature doing crazy stuff. And yes, they're more slasher flicks these days, which are, we'll talk about that, whatever. But still, that core concept, I think, is truly phenomenal and really shows off Ridley Scott and kind of what his brain can come up with a lot of these unique ideas.
I would argue that they're more slasher flicks back in the day, and when Ridley Scott went back and revisited them, he tried to turn them into like these philosophical thought piece things about God and creation and all these. Like, he was trying to ask these big sci-fi mind questions about the creation of humanity and all this stuff. He did kind of renege on it when he went back into Covenant, which if you watch his interviews, he's kind of talking about how the audience was clamoring for less of his high-mindedness, and he took their critiques when he went into Covenant and arguably made the worst movie in the franchise. I don't think that. I think 3 and 4
it's
are
not the worst movie.
Terrible. Yeah, I think Covenant is. It's just better for me to watch the more modern ones just because they look better.
Yeah. Well, I think you actually hit something right on the head. Ridley Scott, regardless, he doesn't always have the best story, but the direction and the aesthetic always works, and he always has some kind of big, grandiose sci-fi idea that he wants to put forward.
The aesthetic of Prometheus and Aliens, Prometheus and Alien, 1979, are amazing. They're both directed by Ridley Scott and 2 of the best looking movies of the franchise.
I like that they're unique too. Even Covenant, like Prometheus, or Covenant's a sequel to Prometheus, and aesthetically it looks like that. Whereas I feel like in like the older ones it was more contained. Like, there's not like big swirling like planets and stuff they're going to in the other ones. Prometheus is all about like the atmosphere and the pacing and like, look how beautiful this is before everything goes to absolute shit. And I really love that he does that for his movies. Like I said, big sci-fi ideas, like you mentioned.
The opening shots in Prometheus are amazing. And the opening is on Earth, and it just looks gorgeous. But then when they get to, what is it?
I don't remember the
LV-223.
Yeah.
That's why I got my notes. When they get to LV-223, it's also absolutely stunning, gorgeous.
Yeah. Cinematography is always, the dude knows how to direct.
So today we're going to be talking about the franchise, we're going to be going over a bunch of stuff.
Yep.
Andrew's going to do a full recap of the entire franchise.
We can do that at the opening, because I'm
Yep.
sure there's a lot of people
That's
that
how
want
we'll
to get to
start
that.
off, exactly. And that'll kind of get us ready for the new movie coming out. And then from there, we can break down each movie, talk about different points, the story, the practical effects, the filmmaking side
Yeah.
of things, and all that. So,
And I'll talk about the 2 good ones out of the 7.
so Andrew, you want to start off with your big recap here?
Okay, so this is the Alien franchise recap as best as I can do, trying to get under 5 minutes. So I'll go through them in release order. Starting out in 1979, we have Ridley Scott's Alien, which introduces the crew of the Nostromo, including our star Sigourney Weaver. They land on a planet called LV-426 when they receive a distress beacon of unknown origin. When they land there, they go onto a ship that is dubbed the Derelict, and they find something that at the time they had called the Space Jockey, which is this big, tall alien creature with its chest ripped open. Now, one of the space crew members, Kane, looks at one of the eggs, which a facehugger bursts out of and grabs onto him. At the time, they don't know what that means. The facehugger impregnates him with a xenomorph, which bursts out of his chest, and this is where we get the term chest burster. And that matures quickly over hours into the xenomorph, which kills the entire crew of the Nostromo, except for Ripley and Jonesy the cat. And they escape off on a little pod, and she ejects the xenomorph out of that pod into space and kills it. So we pick up in the next movie where Ridley has been in hypersleep for, I believe, 47 years. She was in cryosleep, and she's found by this random ship. She gets woken up, and in the plot of that movie, the company, or Weyland-Yutani Corporation, has a colony that they've now established on the planet from the first movie, LV-426, and they go to Ridley because she's the only one that knows about the xenomorph, and the colony has stopped contacting them. So they have to send a mission out there to go and check in on the little colony there on LV-426, and they find that a big, huge group of aliens has attacked the colony. The colony there was controlled by the company. They were trying to experiment and capture the essence of the xenomorph to try and recreate it, to try and use it as a biological weapon to make money, because they're a greedy corporation. It's a big theme throughout these movies is corporate greed. So I'll try to go through this as quickly as I can. I'm going to speed up.
You're doing great.
You got 4 more to go through.
Oh my goodness. And so Ripley goes over there with a group of space marines. They fight off a bunch of the aliens and save this. They basically save one person, the one survivor of the colony, Newt. This is where James Cameron's movie introduces the concept of the Queen, which gives birth to all the other xenomorphs. And they kill all the aliens and escape on a small pod with Newt and the synthetic bishop. And then when we start off in Alien 3, which is directed by David Fincher, they've undone the saving of the previous movie, and Newt is dead. She died in her pod, and Hicks is dead too. Bishop is corrupted and done. Basically, just Ripley survives, which is the theme of the first 4 movies. And Ripley is on this prison on a planet called Fury, and an alien's let loose on there again. And she gets the crew together to fight off the alien, but the alien impregnates her as well. So the end of that movie is her jumping into the fire, sacrificing herself as the Christ figure she is, arms outstretched. As the new queen bursts out of her chest, she lands in the flames, which you'd think would be the end of the franchise. You would assume. But
It gets worse.
it gets worse. When they come back in Aliens Resurrections, or Alien 4, which is directed by Jean-Pierre Jeunet.
Sorry. That guy, after that movie he directed, he made Emily. He went from Alien Resurrection
That's a big difference.
Yeah.
Worst movie of all time. Argued by you, Alien Resurrections might be the worst movie of all time.
It'll be bad. Sorry, go ahead.
In Resurrections, they needed a way to bring Sigourney Weaver back.
How do you do it, Andrew?
So it takes place a couple hundred years later. The first movie is in 2122, and this movie takes place in 2386. So the U.S. government goes back to Fury, where 3 takes place, and finds some biological material from Ripley. Because she had the Queen in her chest, they use this biological material to recreate multiple different versions of Ripley. They finally get one right called Ripley 8. And when they recreate her, it's also recreating the Queen that was in her chest that was being birthed. So
Naturally.
they do surgery to remove the Queen because they want to start a colony of the xenomorphs so they can use them as a biological weapon, yada yada. Same journey as the other movies, same corporate greed, except it's the military instead of Weyland Yutani Corporation. And they're like, should we just get rid of Ripley? And then they go, no, let's just keep her and see what happens. So the alien DNA has mutated where the xenomorph Queen now has DNA of Ripley in it, making it more human, and Ripley has the DNA of xenomorph in it, making her more alien. So she has partly acidic blood, increased strength. She also has what they call emotional autism, so she is basically just devoid of emotion, amoral in this movie. It makes for a lot of weird plot lines, but throughout the events of the movie, they basically just try to escape on this ship called the Auriga. They try to escape from the aliens that have inevitably crept out of their pods, like every Jurassic Park movie or world movie we've ever seen. And the alien has mutated with her DNA to be able to give birth instead of lay eggs. So it gives birth to something that is called the newborn, which is a more human version of the alien. It has white skin and more humanoid facial features like the eye sockets and the teeth. Ripley has this motherly familial relationship with the xenomorph and with the newborn. And she ends up sacrificing the newborn by shooting a hole through the window of the ship, which sucks the newborn's guts out of its back and rips it apart. And in order to destroy the Auriga, which is filled with a colony of xenomorphs, they crash it into Earth in an uninhabited sector, which is crazy because you should see the nuclear explosion extinction level event that hits the Earth as they escape off. The humans of the group escape off in a pod, with Winona Ryder or whatever as a synthetic randomly in the movie. And Ron Perlman is in it as Joner, as like this criminal. The movie is terrible.
I don't see how they could have done it in any other way, though.
I've got thoughts.
It's the only way to bring Sigourney Weaver back. But quickly, I'll go through Prometheus. We're going to have to get into these individually. Prometheus is when Ridley Scott came back on board. He wasn't interested in continuing the Alien franchise as much, but Fox bartered with him, and he got to tell the story he wanted to tell, which is this philosophical, religious almost prequel story of how humans tried to meet their makers. And this is where we get the concept of the space jockey from the first movie brought back. They are traveling to meet their maker. And because of these cave paintings they found on a wall in the beginning of Prometheus, they travel to LV-223, another new planet, and this movie takes place from the year 2089 to 2093. They travel to this planet where they introduce the new most important character of the franchise, which is David, played by Michael Fassbender. When they get to this planet, I don't even want to get into these movies yet, but I'll just broadly say that it's too complicated to say this one quickly. David is a synthetic who is trying to basically experiment, and he's going outside of his coding and being emotional. So he basically sets in course a motion of events that corrupt everyone on the ship. They get infected by this new black goo that's part of the storyline, which is a pathogen that can spread to humans and either kill them, mutate them, and make them super strong, or infect them with an alien parasite, which introduces all these new aliens to the storylines, where we bring out the neomorph and the praedomorph. So in Prometheus, they meet their makers, which is they're called the engineers, and that's what was the space jockey in the original movie. And when they find them in this tavern building with all these tunnels and walls, basically they just reject them, and they kill Wayland, the leader of the corporation, who's played by Guy Pearce. They try to kill all of them, but they escape. And when the engineer gets back to the ship, he encounters this other alien structure that came out of a different character. She got infected by the black goo. Well, she slept with another character who was infected by the black goo, impregnated her with this thing that grew super fast. It put out this early version of the facehugger, which then infects the engineer. The engineer then creates the Deacon, which is an early version of the xenomorph. And then David escapes off the planet with the main character of that movie. What's her name? She was dating Dallas. But they escape off the planet. They're the only two survivors, and they bring some of the alien pathogen with them to the new planet that takes place in Covenant called Planet 4. And David does all these experiments that end up turning the progression of the neomorph with the black goo turns into the xenomorph, or an early version of the xenomorph called the praedomorph. And he kills the... I can't even get into it.
Tell us, Andrew. Tell us.
Let's talk about the movies one at a time from here on out, because
I just want to say...
It's too in-depth, these two movies.
Everything he just said for the last 2 minutes is why we should make prequels.
Well, they really went a completely different route than they did with the original movies when they made Prometheus and Covenant. And Covenant especially tries to answer the questions from Prometheus, but creates even more questions.
It answers questions that didn't need to be answered.
Because David is this huge important figure. So one of the overall themes throughout the Alien movies is the cycle of creation and then being killed by your creator. Mm-hmm. And that's what they do with the synthetics turning against humans. Mm-hmm. It's with Prometheus, they're acknowledging the Greek mythology aspect by naming it Prometheus, because he was one of the Titans. And they're acknowledging the mythological cycle of Titans create gods, gods destroy Titans, gods create man, man ignores gods. And then the next step in that is now in the Alien franchise, man or Wayland creates synthetics. Mm-hmm. Synthetics usurp or step out from underneath humans. So it's like this never-ending cycle that they repeat, going back to religion and mythology, and they really try to hammer in the philosophical component in these prequel movies, and it gets rough. Like I just feel like the problem with the franchise is they create way more questions than they answer.
Yeah. Don't make prequels.
Great job, Andrew.
Yeah,
that was fantastic.
I didn't recap Covenant at all because it's just,
you did. Not that much happens in the movie.
So they like
in terms
So
of
he did just that.
yeah.
Good job.
In Covenant, I'll try to say it. They are on a ship that's heading to a planet called
Omicron Persei 8.
That's the name of the planet from
Futurama.
Yeah, but it's called Auriga 6, I think. But
close.
Everyone keeps calling it that. It's so funny to me.
It's actually really funny.
But that's where like Lur or Zur.
I'm Lur from the planet Omicron Persei 8.
But so they are going to Auriga 6, but they get a beacon from.
It's like a space colony.
Yeah, they're a space colony of 2,000 or more people with a crew on board, and they're trying to like establish and terraform planets because that's what Wayland Corporation does.
Yeah.
But they wake up from their hypersleep because of an accident that occurs in deep space, and they're like, "What are we gonna do?" But we just got a distress call from this planet called called Planet 4, and we could head there because the conditions are even better than Auriga 6, and it's way closer. It's only like weeks away, and so they decide to go do an exploratory mission there. And there's a new version of Michael Fassbender's character called Walter, a newer model of the David 8. Mm-hmm. And now there's 2 Michael Fassbenders in the movie because it turns out that the distress call, the song being played, is from David from the previous movie, who's trying to lure humans there so he can use them for his experiments because he's experimenting on the neomorphs to make xenomorphs or the predomorph in this movie.
How do you force a sequel?
It's so
We
crazy.
loved Michael Fassbender in Prometheus. Let's give them 2 of him now.
But basically they kill most of the crew at the end of Covenant, and then
I think like all of them.
David takes over for Walter. He like kills Walter and takes his place, and then at the end of that movie, everybody's asleep, and he's like going off to Auriga 6, which is like creates even more questions. Why are they going to Auriga 6? What is he going to do there? What is David's motive? David's motives are never fully explored or explained. You're just left to theorize about them.
So what's the timeline order of these?
So the timeline order is
It's
Prometheus, Covenant, Alien,
and then they just go in order.
Yeah, 2, 3, 4.
And then where does this new one?
So this is the sequel to Aliens. So it's erasing Alien 3.
It's between Aliens 1 and 2. Romulus is between.
It's between 1 and 2.
Between Alien and Aliens.
Okay, but it's the core 2 that everyone reveres, and all those awful sequels we're kind of just forgetting. Honestly, what Terminator does. Terminator chooses the movie they want to make a sequel to, and like completing their story. So this, in my mind, would complete a really good trilogy, because I think Romulus is going to be really good, and I would call that the Alien trilogy.
I think that's why they're trying to put Romulus in between Alien and Aliens, because it's the 2 movies that people care about, and they think if they can fit a good movie in between there, then it won't have the mess of the prequels or the mess of the sequels, which honestly
is not how it works.
No,
you can't just pick to insert it in there and make it good.
You can't have one from the 70s, 80s, and then just
shoot
throw one in the
2024.
middle of that.
Well, honestly, like that really is the problem with prequels. And I was kidding before, but it always leads to more questions. And in my mind, it's always better to have just like let my mind fill in the vagueness from a first movie.
Yeah.
Let me make the lore. And
Linear
Alien,
timeline.
that first Alien, the imagery is so freaking vivid and memorable.
Yeah.
I had my head canon. I didn't need to know where the space jockeys came from and like where the genesis of all of it came from. I feel like it muddies the water when I just wanted this cool alien thing that kind of exists in space that people should not fuck with and should not come across.
I didn't watch them as they came out, obviously, because I wasn't alive. But watching them this past week,
I was.
I had only seen. I had only. Were you alive in 1979?
No, all the sequels.
Yeah.
So I missed the first 2, and then all the sequels.
But I watched them all this week. Before this week, I'd only seen Alien and Aliens. The first
You watched
2.
them all this week?
This week I watched all of them, and it's tough. It's tough to watch.
It is
I
tough.
watched the first 3 and I was like, all right,
Tapping out.
that's good. I'm good there.
Yeah, but the thing is, in watching them, like back to back, I enjoyed where my head was at following Aliens more, because I kind of had this mystique to it, where in my mind I imagined that the derelict, the ship from the first movie, crash landed with another alien culture onto LV-426, got it right. And then there was just like this evolved organism called the xenomorph that happened to be there and infected them. And I was like, oh, like nature created this ultimate predator, and that's a cool concept. They just happened to crash there. And when their ship was getting attacked, they were like, oh, send out a signal that says don't come here because you can't survive here and our ship can't take off. And then just through happenstance and evolution, whatever, the Nostromo comes there, which causes the plot of the other movies. But instead, they went back and retroactively changed so much that now the alien is a biological weapon. Which, if you talk to Ridley Scott, he claims that from the beginning he had envisioned the alien, the xenomorph, as a biological weapon.
It's just a lie.
It's hard to believe.
They always like to say that in hindsight. It's like, E.T., he was a vegetable the whole time. It's like, bro, you can say whatever you want, but when you were writing that movie like decades ago, you didn't think you'd have a franchise. You were just writing a movie.
Yeah. And sometimes that's better.
Yeah, totally.
When you're writing
works out.
a movie for the movie's sake,
Too
rather
many
than
details
just
bog
to
it down.
sync it up with a bigger story. That might even be the problem with Marvel these days, is that they're so focused on fitting in with the continuity of everything that their individual movies aren't as strong as when they were in phase 1, 2, and even 3.
Yeah, they don't stand on their own legs. Well, even the newest Deadpool's freaking amazing. But if you just showed that to somebody who'd never seen any Marvel movie, they would not enjoy it. Like, it's not a full movie, really.
Yeah. It would be cool visuals, but there would be so much less to appreciate. It'd be like 75% less enjoyable because you wouldn't know any of the
Even the last
references.
Spider-Man is not a great movie on its own.
Yeah.
It's on the shoulders of so much before it.
Even with Deadpool and Wolverine, like, my mom doesn't want to watch it because she's not super familiar with, like, all the Fox universe and stuff.
Totally.
And it's like, well, she's right, because that's where a lot of the jokes come
It's
from.
Easter egg the movie. Like,
So many of us, though, were just watching, Fantastic Four, Daredevil, Elektra, Blade, like as kids anyway. So it has enough there for modern audiences.
yeah, Elektra's top tier.
Let's get back to
Best superhero movie ever made, if you ask me.
Launched all of this started with Elektra.
Let's go into this with Alien 1979. You guys want to start going movie by movie?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's talk about them.
This is obviously one of the best movies in the franchise, like you already touched on.
It's
earlier.
amazing.
I think that, but I've always said that Knives Out is my favorite movie set of all time. I think after watching Alien a second time, Alien's probably my favorite movie set of all time. It's just so detailed.
It's all real. It is
Practical lights,
probably
practical
still
walls.
one of the most claustrophobic movies I've ever seen. And also, I don't know the exact number, but it's somewhere between like 5 to 10 minutes is the amount of time that Alien's on screen in that first movie.
Really
it is,
short.
Yeah, it's really
It's
long.
Jaws, which is why Jaws works so well too, and why Jaws: The Revenge doesn't work because you show the shark so much. Hide it, like be mysterious. Like the whole time in Alien, even the characters' dialogue, it's there. There's a presence of something hunting them. They're never calm. There's never a moment of like reprieve or respite. They're always on edge. I'm like, where the fuck is this thing? What's going on? And it's haunting. The whole time it is haunting and suspenseful.
I also like how they treat it with a lot of horror and thriller components when it's just the face hugger. Because the face hugger is so small, but it's still this scary aspect of the unknown. Like, what's it doing to Kane? Is it going to hurt him? And one thing that I think really highlighted to me on a second watch is that it's weird that Kane is the first one to wake up in the opening of that movie. He's the first one to come out of cryo sleep, which I feel like would convince you that he's not going to die in the first 40 minutes of the movie.
So that's a great point. The first Alien movie has no protagonist until all of a sudden Ripley starts stepping up.
Until like the third act.
Yeah, it's like the crew versus the crew is the protagonist, and then they drop one by one. Even
And she's not billed first either.
But she's
Tom
also
Skerritt is billed
she's
first.
the only one in the movie who sticks by the rules and the protocol. Because at a certain point, even the captain's like, "Let me in, let me in." It's like, no, bro, you might be infected. It's protocol. Even the captain is denying protocol.
They were all really dumb in this movie.
I think, except Ridley. That's the important part of
That's
the plot.
the point.
You
Is
can-
someone
yeah.
has a head on their shoulders and can grasp and like calculate a way out. And like halfway through, maybe even third act is finally where like, oh no, she's the protagonist. We're following her the whole time.
And especially if you watch this back in the day, because Ridley Scott only found Sigourney Weaver. She was recommended by another director who saw her on Broadway. So
I didn't know that.
she was like an unknown when this movie came out. So you don't expect her to be the main character. Tom Skerritt at the time was more famous than her, but she became one of the most famous leading ladies to ever live. And part of that is because she's the only one with sense in this movie. Like when she's like, "Don't let them in," and being like not emotional, she's really well written in the sense where she does have an emotional core. She's not this robotic female protagonist. She's still realistic, but they also make her badass and logical, and you can respect her intelligence and her acumen. Like she's the one who's going to everybody else on the ship, checking to make sure that shit is getting done.
Yeah.
She goes down in the opening, down to the like mechanical room. What's that called in Star Trek? The people with the red shirts. I don't remember what it's called.
They're called red shirts, aren't they?
I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah.
But like the engineer bay or something. She goes
Creative.
She goes down.
Yeah.
She goes down to the bottom level and is like talking to them to make sure that stuff is getting done, to make sure that the ship is getting fixed when they have that rough landing on LV-426.
She steps up.
You respect her a lot throughout the movie. They do a good job of writing her that way, and then continue to ruin her character in 3 and 4, where she barely bears resemblance to herself in the previous movies in 3 and 4.
Yeah, 2 is the culmination of Ripley. They take her in the right direction, and then, like you said, 3 and 4 it goes at the deep end. But she's fucking perfect in that first movie.
For me, as watching the movie now in 2024, the biggest strength and weakness of Alien 1979 is the practical effects, because the practical effects of the sets are my favorite part of the movie, and the practical effects of the xenomorph, while they look cool in close-ups and even mediums, when you can see the whole creature, it really takes me out of the movie because of how much it looks like a man in a suit. Like, the head looks fantastic, and like you said,
that's just something you can't fix for like movies.
You can't fix in 1979,
no.
and we see
because
it,
when they put that out, like that was ridiculous to see on screen. Like they just got I think they just got a black guy who was like 8 feet tall or like 7'5", like, and just really interesting body, and like he just all this cool stuff. But even like the practicals on the chest burster scene,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
So fun fact, I don't know, people might know this, it's a popular fact. No one in the room except for the dude, John Hurt, getting the chest burster, knew that was happening.
That's
so
so
everybody
cool.
in the scene had a real reaction, and they're screaming. They're shocked when that thing comes out. And that's a good directing note from Ridley Scott. He knew it was going to happen. The team knew, but not the actors. And then you write something in a script. What does that mean? What is a chest burster? You just made this up. It's on. I see the words. What does that mean?
Yeah.
And they did it for real, and it's so memorable.
I mean,
Good on all those other actors that didn't know to like stay in character and not.
I think part of that honestly is because they used to shoot on film. You didn't have extra takes, so like you have to commit to what we're doing because we can't go again.
Yeah, there's also cuts in that scene, so there's some of it's probably from the good takes they had.
It's the one scene of them looking up with the foreground chest burster, and they go and the blood. It's iconic. So many scenes in that movie are iconic.
And they've been doing that a lot too with the marketing now for Romulus, is chest bursters and face huggers, like practically on wherever they're promoting the movie. It's really cool to have people laying on the ground with a face hugger in their face or chest bursters.
The viral marketing has actually been pretty fun.
Incredible marketing. For Romulus.
I'm usually not a fan of the viral marketing stuff they do in New York because it's kind of dumb, but like just walking and seeing someone who's like a homeless person, they just have a face hugger. Like it's unsettling for sure.
There's one part in Alien that I really don't like, and it's when Dallas, the captain, is in the vent, and he turns around, and you have the jump scare with the xenomorph, and it puts its hands out and goes like that. Because it's just got these 5-fingered human hands.
I know.
And it's not intimidating at all the way it's like, I'm going to touch you.
It was in 1979, though. It was terrifying. Yeah. Some things like that. I'm happy it's practical. Overall.
I come to appreciate it more by the time I'm watching them this week, and I get to Alien 3 with some of the worst CGI I've ever seen in my life. Which, to be fair, it was the 90s, and they just discovered they could do it. So they were like, they didn't have a reference for what looked better than that, so they were like, this looks great. But the scaling, the like size comparison to the people in the foreground is way off. Bad. Like Aaron said, the green spill is terrible.
I think that's the worst part, is the green spill.
That is a movie that was ruined by studio interference. Wholeheartedly.
The hard part for me is that it's David Fincher directing that movie.
It's barely,
and he's my hero.
It's barely though.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
he's my hero. He might be my favorite.
No, he's even
my favorite director too. And that's
he's even mentioned that movie. It really should not be considered in his catalog.
I would wipe it out of my catalog too.
Because like he barely wanted to do it. None of his ideas went through. Like he just was a name from a new director who was making this movie and had to do what people told him to do.
I wonder if it was a good opportunity or if he was contractually obligated with the studio. Like, oh, you want to make these other movies with us? You have to make Alien 3 first. I wonder what the ins and outs of that are.
He only would have made the game, I think, at that point, right?
I think the game was made after Alien 3. I think that was.
Oh, so I don't even know. Feature. Yeah, but no, yeah, that movie is Alien 3 is studio interference making a bad movie, whereas Resurrection is a bad idea from start to finish. But sorry, we're jumping all around.
Let's go.
So Alien is awesome. I would recommend everybody. Director's cut of Alien. Ridley Scott is the only person I would ever recommend to watch his director's cuts because he's the only person who I feel adds information without detracting from pacing or the story.
Yeah, because it's not really any longer.
No, there's one scene he added that it's when I forget the dude's name, but with the cat. They're walking on the bridge with the cat. And then there's just a xenomorph in the background as a silhouette. The camera doesn't move to it. They don't even notice it, but it's there watching him. And it was an added scene. And then it's incredibly unsettling. You don't need that crazy push and zoom to the monster with the music beat. It's just there. Almost like that Blumhouse movie where she's just on top of the cabinet watching in the room.
What is it, like Insidious or something?
Yes.
Yeah.
Whereas like they're not
Total
like
guess.
they're not showing the monster, but like if you're looking at the foreground or even
All the photos at the end of Insidious are
Hereditary,
awesome.
with like the thing with like the camera's not showing you where you're supposed to look. You're in like a wide frame and you just see things moving.
Yeah.
It's like that. There's just a silhouette or like this thing of a xenomorph just like watching him and stalking.
Things you can appreciate again when you go back and watch it, rather than in the
Yes.
theater. It's like so quick, you know.
Yes. Also, if you
rewind.
if you guys rewatch Alien, if you've seen it already, pay attention to the android the whole movie because every line and every acting piece that guy does, he obviously knew he was an android.
Yeah.
You don't know for a while. He is on it with all of his motions and all of his foreshadowing and stuff. He has a mission. He wants to get that sample, and it's really, really good
So,
acting.
so his name is Ash,
It
and
took
that's,
me out.
Really?
Film though, not knowing that he was an android and seeing his performance.
the crew members
Oh,
didn't
really?
know. The crew members didn't know either.
No one knows. You're not supposed to know. It's a
Yeah.
reveal.
I didn't know.
Yeah,
I just
good.
thought
He was.
he
You
was.
didn't like his
I
acting.
didn't like his vibe. Yeah.
So
That's okay.
His acting.
So his name is Ash, and he's actually a really big important part of the plot because he has a separate directive from the rest of the crew. He knows that Mother, which is the AI that's controlling the ship, that's beholden to the Weyland-Yutani Corporation. He has this separate directive where he's trying to. He knows the xenomorph is there. He's trying to capture the xenomorph, bring it back on the ship, and get it through customs and bring it back to.
Which makes sense
Through
why.
customs.
Yeah, that's what they talk about in
know.
in Aliens, right? how you gonna get it back through?
What are you
the-
declaring? You got any food? You got any xenomorphs?
No.
You can't bring that in here.
But that makes it all like kind of make sense of why he was like breaking all the rules
Yes.
and stuff, and how
Yes.
everyone was so stupid in this film.
Yeah, because Ripley's not stupid because she doesn't want to. He's not stupid because he's knowingly bringing the facehugger on board. That's what he wants.
Yeah.
It was his mission.
And then the other people outside the ship, I would say, aren't stupid either because they don't want to be stranded on LV-426. They want to get back into the ship. So they're just selfish, not stupid.
Have you seen the movie Life?
Yeah, life's great.
Life is great. I watched that.
Maybe for you guys. I've had some tough times.
I watched it a few months ago when it
Yeah.
first dropped on Netflix recently, and I hadn't seen Alien before that. And now, like watching Alien, going back, it's basically like the modernization of Alien in a way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Honestly,
And I
a
think-
couple movies are.
Yeah, and I
Most even Event Horizon is Alien. Like a lot of movies are just Alien.
yeah, it
Rivals
makes
kind of,
sense.
yeah.
I mean, it's very common to pull inspiration from
Yeah,
other
totally.
projects.
It's one of the most inspirational movies of all time, Alien. But sorry, you were
Yeah.
saying about a life.
I think Life improves upon a lot of the faults of Alien.
So I don't disagree with that. I wanted Prometheus to be more like Life. I didn't want all this world building and questions and stuff. I just wanted a new take on it. And you mentioned some of the characters are not super smart in Alien, but like Andrew said, they do have motivations that make sense. Whereas
Yeah.
Prometheus, I don't think that works. I think characters make bad decisions to advance plot, and it feels kind of like that where they're just jumping ahead.
Well, it also feels like I have such a hard time understanding characters' motivations, especially David.
Yes.
And he's the biggest part of the plot, the whole movie. I should know what he's.
I need to get to
thinking.
this next scene. Let me write something to get there. Life knows what it is the whole time. It
Yeah.
is a contained thing. We know that we're going to kill people in fun ways. That's the movie.
Yeah.
Don't let this thing escape and get to Earth. And they do a great job of it. And even the ending, it does get to Earth. It's wild.
Yeah.
And you could really have fun thinking about that. And like your mind can ping pong and do
It
a
has
bunch
emotional
of things.
parts too. Like it's
It
not
does.
just like a
the Ryan
how can we
Reynolds
kill him?
scene
Yeah.
and like one of the most brutal death scenes on camera.
I
Straight
think
up.
that movie is fantastic.
It really is a good movie.
I love that movie.
Has
Yeah.
an attractive cast too.
It's also only like 90 minutes or an hour 40.
Yeah,
like
it's not that long.
It's fun.
Very
I also want to say, because you mentioned Netflix, for the audience members, if you're wondering about where you can watch the Aliens movies coming up to Alien Romulus or what have you, they're all on Disney, because Disney, Hulu, Max has the bundle.
It's weird.
If you have the triple bundle, you can watch all of the Alien movies, including Requiem, including Alien vs. Predator, and then the 6 we mentioned. They're all on streaming.
Yeah. Although you don't have to watch Alien vs. Predator.
You don't have to watch anything besides Alien and Aliens, because Ridley Scott doesn't even like the events of Aliens, which were done by James Cameron. I feel like he doesn't like the introduction of the Queen because it disrupts the life cycle he originally had in mind for the xenomorph.
Well, I wonder how he feels about 3 and 4.
I wonder how he feels about the newborn and that. Yeah, but then he went back and was like, "Oh, I'm going to make the Predomorph and the Neo." Like, I don't know.
All right, so here, that's a good, I think, transition to go to Aliens.
Let's talk about Aliens.
Because
Before we do though,
Yeah.
real quick, I just want to say Alien has an 8.5 on IMDb. I believe it won 2
Best special
Oscars?
effects, I think, right?
yeah, so it was
One Oscar. Yep. Best special effects.
on,
And
shit.
then production budget $10.7 million again in 1979, and it brought in $186.9 million.
Which is a resounding
It's almost
success.
20 times. That's insane.
Think about how much $80 million is in 1979 too. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's a lot of tickets sold.
Okay,
Yeah.
we can go to Aliens. Oh,
Also,
I also looked up David Fincher's filmography.
oh yeah,
Aliens 3, first one credited.
was the game was the next movie?
7, and then the game.
Oh,
Wow, I was
Club.
wrong
The game
too.
was before also, yeah.
I mean, you think that after you made 7, you wouldn't like make the game because 7's such a better movie. But
Yeah,
He probably wanted to.
92 was Aliens 3, 7 was 95, and then 97
was
was the
Resurrection.
game.
Oh, I'm sorry, on Fincher. Yeah,
he's doing pictures, yeah.
yeah, yeah. I have that backwards in my head.
So now let's get into Aliens, which came out it came out surprisingly far later, like 6 to 8 years later.
Yeah.
86.
Actually, real fast, we were just talking about awards while we're going to Aliens. Sigourney Weaver nominated for Best Actress for this sci-fi horror movie, an action movie. Mm-hmm. That's just before we go for how amazing she is in this fucking movie and compared to where she was in the first movie. This is her movie, man.
I think she's really well written, like I said already, as a
Fully
character.
revealed,
She's
yeah.
well rounded, and then
Fully
the
developed.
performance from Sigourney Weaver is amazing in the first
so
movie.
good.
She's the best part of the movie.
Yeah, it had a bunch of nominations. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 nominations.
Yeah.
So Best Actress, Best Art Direction, Best Sound, Best Film
The
Editing,
sound design.
and then Best Music. Those were all the nominations, and then these two were winners. Was Best Effects, Sound Effects Editing, and then Best Effects Visual Effects.
I think that
Which really, sorry, that year was unmatched.
Yeah.
People
who don't know a lot about the Oscars, I want to say that it's a big deal for a sci-fi horror movie to get so many nominations. Like,
It doesn't happen.
Yeah, especially in '79. Like, the Academy's been very kind of prudish for a long time, and this is kind of a slasher flick too. It's quite bloody. If you think about the time period in '79, it's very, very gruesome. By today's standards, more tame, but still it was R-rated, and to get Oscar noms on that caliber is a huge success.
It's wild. Yeah. It truly is wild. It doesn't happen anymore.
It also opened to like kind of critical dismissal, and over time became more appreciated. Initially, people were like shit talk this movie a lot.
Aliens had a $17 million budget and made $183.2 million worldwide. So just like
$6 million more.
But a little more in the budget, yeah.
dollars less than the first
Oh,
one.
I meant more for the budget.
It's
$6 million
so
more.
about the same. They did about equally as well.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing because everyone always has the debate: Alien, Aliens, Terminator, Terminator 2, because you have genre switches where it's a solo.
I think it's
what?
pretty clear. Aliens
For both
is better.
of them, I think it's
So
pretty
that's the
clear
thing is, I think they're both equal. I think they do different genres perfectly. It's hard to compare because Alien is literally one thing, barely shown the whole movie, and it's human horror. Whereas Aliens is like, no, they found the planet. We have the military guys here who are going to fuck shit up and get it done. And it's still scary and spooky and suspenseful, but it's not horror. And it's hard to compare the two because I really do think they both excel perfectly in what they're trying to accomplish.
This is something I want to ask you about now that we're at 2, and we've all seen 1 and 2. So I saw somebody recently online talking about this and complaining about how Ridley Scott, when he made Alien 1, was making this sci-fi movie that had these deeper themes about sexual assault and women being forced to carry children and being forced to bear the burden of men impregnating them, and addressing it, especially with Cain being the one to get impregnated, putting men in the shoes of seeing what that's like to be forcibly impregnated. And it has like these deeper themes that people have touched on throughout time, and people really like this aspect of the Alien movies and the xenomorph like tying over to the real world. And then people complain about Aliens because it's blockbuster fun, action, and this person in particular that I'm talking about was saying when James Cameron hit up Aliens, he was like, oh, the military has guns and they're muscular and they're super cool, and I'm going to make a fun action flick. I just think that it's tough draw because they're, like you said, they're different thematically, and Aliens is just more fun to watch.
It is. It's a popcorn movie. You have this group of military guys who are all freaking hilarious. They have their quips and their personalities.
Oh my God, Hudson.
Yeah, like Bill Pullman or Bill Paxton.
Yeah,
rather.
Bill Paxton
Bill
from
Paxton is amazing in this movie. All the characters are really good.
He's
in this
so
movie.
goofy.
But Ridley is well defined. Newt is a great storyline for it.
I like Newt.
Like it's a really good movie. It's just different. It's a different path, but I still think you hit a lot of the same notes that Alien does without having to call yourself a horror.
It does start and stop with basically no development as the first film. Starts with them waking up from being in sleep.
Yeah.
Ends with the alien getting thrown into space and then them going back to sleep. And I feel like there's not much character development. And then
But that's
any
fine.
character development that there is goes completely into the trash can for
That's
3.
not what the movie's about, though. You're not. It's an isolated movie. It's a box movie.
I feel like-
it's these people in the spaceship doing
I
this
guess
thing.
maybe it's more of a complaint because I watched them back to back,
Sure.
and they more or less were the same story wise.
It's frustrating.
You're not wrong.
It's frustrating for me in 3 as like from a storytelling perspective, because what they do at the beginning of 2 is they establish that while Ripley has been in cryosleep for a lengthy, 47, 49 years, whatever it is, her daughter died. So she outlived her daughter because she was in cryosleep. And then she gets this connection to Newt, who's her new surrogate daughter. We spend the whole movie building that bond, her saving her at the end. The whole plot of that movie is they go to LV-426 and save one person, just Newt.
You know what's interesting?
And then they kill her in the beginning of 3 without off screen.
Yeah, that's a director's cut. It's not her. There's no daughter in the movie. So
Oh, yeah.
James Cameron's director's cut, which is the
I was
thing.
gonna say I don't remember her daughter dying.
James Cameron's director's cut adds a little too much. I was saying before about pacing, he kind of ruins his pace, but one thing he did add is opening the movie, she's looking at a photo of her daughter, who is an old woman, and she died while she was away in cryosleep doing her thing. And how fucking important is it for Newt?
Yeah, to understanding why
she
she's
was
so-
a mother and she lost a child. It's such a good a combining thing there, and that was a director's cut thing.
Like, it makes sense to want to save a child either way and to go back for her even, like, at the very end of the movie when she
had
falls
to.
into... It makes sense to
Yes.
do that. But when you include that information from the director's cut, which apparently I have seen one of the director's cuts.
so that's
I was like,
So those were the ones that
were.
were always on TV growing up. So like when I watched them, I watched director's cuts first because I didn't know better, and that's why I just know because again, it opens the movie essentially with the shot of her looking at her dead daughter. It's I'm surprised it's not in the movie because it really makes Newt more important. And I can understand if you went to theaters and saw that originally, you might not be as hot on that movie because it was so different than Alien.
To briefly explain director's cut too for anybody who's like really casual moviegoer, the original movie that gets put in theaters is the theatrical cut. That movie might have a lot more involvement from the studio, from producers, changing out scenes, cutting things shorter. A lot of times they want movies to fit a certain runtime so that they can play it a certain amount of times per day and make more money in theaters. But then you get a lot of times, especially in the past, you would get a director's cut coming out afterwards, maybe on DVD, on like a second disc. And it would be, the director could suit it more to their vision and not have to worry about as much of those things. So
Yeah, and Ridley Scott is the guy who's done it the most.
done
Most
a
people
lot.
know Blade Runner, when it came out in theaters, had a narration, and then he's like, I don't like that, and he just took it out for the director's cut. It's so much better.
They changed the ending too, and Blade Runner has like
3 or 4 different cuts.
a lot of different versions.
It's
Yeah,
like
at
Blade
least-
Runner 1.5 or something. He came out like he's messed with that movie.
I don't like director's cuts. I like the thought of them, of like
agree.
it's the director's actual direction of how they wanted to tell the story. But I don't like that there's multiple versions of one movie that could be out there.
I agree.
I think that's stupid.
Well, especially when it comes to this franchise, in my opinion, because there's a lot of like dangling plot lines and unanswered questions. And when you have director's cuts out there too, it just makes it all the more confusing. Because basically, watching the prequel movies, Prometheus and Covenant, it feels like Ridley Scott just doesn't give a shit about what happened in the Alien movies he didn't make.
Blatantly so.
So like when there's also other versions of those movies too, it's only more convoluted. Because he's like upset with a lot of the stuff they did. I mean, I'm sure he's upset with the Queen, the newborn, like
Dude, the newborn.
bringing back. I mean, I do feel like he pays homage to it in Prometheus by naming the character David 8, because that feels like a reference to Ripley 8 from Resurrections.
That's probably true.
I feel like that's just for audiences because he knows people love Alien. You know?
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed the sets from 1 and 2. The Oscars did as well. I think 3 dropped off
Significantly.
huge. Obviously, the story, I thought the script was terrible. But
So
just,
you have seen 3.
yeah.
Okay.
I've seen the first 3. That's
Okay.
it. Thought the script was bad. The visuals were a lot worse. It just fell off so hard.
You got to give yourself a real deal lobotomy to enjoy 3 and 4. I don't know how else you could
Yeah,
enjoy
and then when
it.
I heard that 4 is on the same, I was like, oh, I can't.
4
I
is
can't.
4 is so demonstrably worse.
See,
And I'll get to it momentarily, but like everything about that movie
like
is
kudos
laughable.
to Andrew watching all of these movies.
It was
this
hard.
week because
He shouldn't have,
I can't watch. I watch movies for entertainment. I don't watch movies because of research or movie sake. Like, I want to have fun when I'm watching a movie.
I watch
Yes.
movies for entertainment, but with a background goal of increasing my numbers on Letterboxd.
Yeah, I don't. I'll get 20, 30 minutes into a movie and be like, yeah, this isn't it, and just leave.
Which is
bail.
fair.
Yeah,
I mean, if
yeah,
you
absolutely.
why watch something you don't enjoy? But and especially with like Aliens 3 and 4, they're not like influential to pop culture, whereas Alien and Aliens are. They're more
they're-
valuable in terms of your movie education.
In fact, they're known jokes at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, so Alien 3, we've talked about it a little bit, so maybe we can skip past it. But before we do, it's got a 6.4.
For Alien 3,
Yeah.
did we skip the facts for Aliens? Or did we already do that?
He started with it. For
Oh,
box
yeah.
office, yeah, he started with that one. When we went
Oh,
to
yeah, I remember. You did say
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So Alien 3, 6.4 on IMDb. It had a $55 million budget. So it jumped up quite a bit. It is almost a decade.
It was early 90s, right?
Yeah, 92.
Yeah.
And then the box office for worldwide brought in 158.5. So it dropped $30 million after 8 years difference.
Still,
with a
but
huge
again,
budget.
he tripled its budget still.
Yeah, it's
so
still
like these
successful.
movies are profitable regardless
Yes.
because of the characters.
I'd imagine the word of mouth was horrible too. But also, these are in times where people are selling VHS and DVDs. So these movies made it way more money than are on the page too.
So much,
And in
yeah.
terms of Alien merch, unbelievable numbers, I'm sure. My thing I want to talk about now that we're at Alien 3 isn't as much the plot and how they kind of forgot how to write well. I mean, 2 is cheesy, but it's cheesy fun, and it feels like good writing still, even though it's incredibly cheesy. But for me, the difference between 1 to 2 to 3 is that 1 has one guy in a suit, and it kind of takes me out of it seeing his humanoid movements. 2 has a lot more aliens, and it's a lot of practicality. I like the way they move better. They crawl on the ceiling. They're more hunched over. They feel more alien in their movements rather than the first one stands
Speed
up
ramps
tall.
kind of take me out, not going to lie.
From 2,
Yeah.
man, we didn't even talk about the ending of 2.
With the Queen.
The Queen in the fucking battle suit and one of the coolest practical things ever built. The stop motion mixing. The ending of 2 is a
Get away from her,
is a
you
fucking
bitch.
Jam. Ending of 2 is a jam.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
Sigourney Weaver sticks
Not-
the landing on that line crazy.
Not sure how. I mean, maybe it's just a movie, right? But like, not sure how she can breathe in space. But good for her.
well, let's get to these sequels. And
Dude, the vacuum of space
It
is
gets more. They breathe in space more.
well, did she hold her breath or did she breathe in space?
She opened the gate thing and the alien flew out and she's holding on for her life. There's no way she was.
It's
holding her
also
breath.
incredible strength.
She was screaming.
incredible.
Yeah, that's true.
She resisted the vacuum of space by like bending her arm over the bar.
Yeah,
and I'm pretty sure
climbed
that,
up. She climbed up the ladder.
and I think the xenomorph was holding onto her foot at one point
Yes,
too.
yes.
Well, she's amazing.
It was the queen
crazy.
too, the queen
Yes.
xenomorph, the huge one. But it's crazy to me how they constantly repeat the airlock hatch thing. It's the thing that kills the alien in I think 4 out of the 6 mainline movies.
That's crazy.
It does it in Covenant. It does it in Alien, Aliens, and Resurrections.
Yeah, shoot into space.
Jeez. Basically in the same way, or at least for 1 and 2.
Also,
Basically
one
the
thing
same.
me and Sierra joked about in this movie is how it progresses every time where the alien dies and comes back and dies and comes back and then dies and then the movie's over. It has to like be, it has to, oh, it's
just a
hanging
real
onto the
death.
edge of the ship. And then like she burns it with the thrusters in Alien, but then the thruster barely damages the earlier evolution of the xenomorph in Covenant. So it's like the one thing that's confusing too is in
That's
Covenant,
what I hate.
the previous evolutions of the alien are even stronger.
That's-
it grows
yeah.
to maturity faster and it's stronger resistant to damage.
Part of the problem with prequels. I'll keep saying it. Prequels ruin things.
Because in Aliens, they're just blasting them left and right.
yeah, you
They're
also
blowing them all
introduce all this new cool technology in the prequels that wasn't there in the. So why didn't they use that tech in the future in the earlier movies when it was later in the
Dude,
timeline?
it looks the ships and everything looks so much more advanced. The synthetic
Yeah.
humans are better in the prequels.
Yeah.
The ships are smooth, sleek, clean, and then you get to the Nostromo and it's like it looks great because it's an awesome set, but it's like dirty and a
Well,
mess.
also Winona Ryder's character in the 4th one is supposed to be the epitome of another 200 years of them making these androids. She's perfect, but like David looks perfect in the prequels. Like he looks perfect. He looks
David's
just like her.
amazing.
Yeah, so like
I love David and I
prequels
love
have some problems.
Walter both. They're
The
all
practical effects of the androids like getting split in half and like laying on the ground and still like talking and stuff.
Oh, and the goo with his heads.
looked
That's
so good.
I'll tell you what, by
Or when
Covenant-
she like took the head off and like sat it onto the table and then he started talking. So clean.
Oh yeah, and you can see where he's underneath the table, but
That's okay.
but it's fine.
No, it was so good.
Listen,
Well, you don't have to wonder how they did it, but it's amazing. It looks so good itself.
Yeah, it's the era of practical effects, and they do, like, sure, you can tell at some point it's a guy in a suit, but like it still looks so much better than if it was computer graphics or whatever from decades ago.
I'm not certain how they did Bishop when he's cut from chest up in Aliens and he's there talking. I'm not certain how they did that because it had to be some form of special effects.
double exposure. So like you do it once and then you put something in front of it and you
composite
expose it
or-
again. Yeah, basically it's
Overlay.
compositing before compositing.
It looks
That's
great.
the same way they did like Lieutenant Dan missing a leg
Gump.
in Forrest Gump.
It looks so good in
The
that movie,
table's
too.
fake. He has a scene where he's missing a leg and he swivels and his leg goes through. The table's in post.
I would have thought, just without like watching it again right now and like trying to break it down, I would have thought that maybe it would have been like a prosthetic from here of like his fake body, and then he's like laying on something under the ground.
I know that's how they did
to,
it.
like, level up his head.
When
That's
it's
how they did
just
it with
his,
Ash,
when it's
for
just
sure.
his head in the goo, yeah, that's exactly how they did it.
It's possible, but it just looked really good if they were doing that because I was trying to scrutinize it, and if they got those angles somehow worked out, then it looked phenomenal. Plus, he moves is one part. I think his face is moving and he slides across the ground.
Also,
I think the camera's moving too.
It's hard to recall specifically.
We'll have
I
to-
watched 6 movies.
yeah, I'd have to look at it again. But also, don't ever discount mirrors.
Yeah, true.
They use mirrors for a lot.
Let's go back to Alien 3. We're jumping over
Yeah, sorry.
a lot here.
I want to talk
Anything
about the
else
special
about
effects.
Alien 3?
I want to talk about so from into 2, they have, like I said, a lot more aliens, a lot more practical aliens. They shoot them a lot closer when they really want to get the detail. But then you get into 3, and you've got these really bad CGI shots of green spill and bad scaling, and it just doesn't look good. And I think that's where 3 really falls off, is stepping away from those practical elements that they used really, really well in 1 and 2. And I think, honestly, 2 is the best balance for me in terms of the early Aliens movies because they couldn't CGI the whole alien, but they moved really well. And they used, like, inverted tricks, flipping the camera upside down and stuff to make them look like they're climbing.
It's James
upside
Cameron
down.
also
Yeah.
knowing how to film things a lot.
James Cameron is awesome. He makes great sequels.
He figures out how to shoot action very well. It translates well. You kind of feel it.
They feel a lot more creature-like, and that's what I like. Because I think the evolution and the peak of evolution that they talk about the xenomorph is not necessarily in its intelligence or humanoid nature. It's in survivability because they have acid for blood, really strong hide, high speed and strength, and versatility with the tail as well.
I thought the aliens in Alien 3 looked okay, but they just weren't able to blend it into the environment.
Did you enjoy the POV shots? Because the POV shots
I
were a big part of that movie.
hated those.
I didn't like them either.
They were terrible, and they lasted way too long. Also, the inmates or whatever seemed like they didn't really know where they were going, which didn't make sense.
I had no clue of the design of this building, especially at the end when they're trying to trap it.
Yeah.
I was like, how is this working? You're just closing
They
doors.
looked like
and-
they were randomly closing doors,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So out, like,
how did they get it in the tunnel? And then
Yeah.
the hot lead didn't even kill it, which there was never a doubt in my mind that it was going to survive the hot lead because it
when
comes
she
back
goes-
20
yeah.
times. Yeah.
Again, you could tell that this is not a single vision that someone wanted to make
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Alien 3. It's
POV
like,
shots
like
just-
the POV shot sounds like a note. Like someone guy's like, hey, would it be cool if we do these in these
I don't want
movies?
to be in the perspective of the alien for
mean,
so long.
Don't show me the alien. Just don't show me it.
yeah.
Just they have the perfect movie in Alien 1 and they just don't want to do it
The
again.
thing that makes the
they want to
Alien-
show it to me more and more and ruin it. Remove all of the mystery.
It's menacing in Alien because when it shows up, it kills you. Like, it's not in a bunch of the shots being
Yeah.
seen not actively participating in hunting. So I think that's a big part of it. They do show it kind of like lay down and sleep at the end of Alien, which
They've ruined the xenomorph in every subsequent movie. You want to get to 4 where it's a pet and it understands English?
I think we do have to get
Let's
to
get to
4.
4.
So we
Yeah,
can
so
move
4
on.
opens up that they just capture them now and they treat them like pets and they're trying to like clone them and do things and they understand English because it has Ripley's DNA somewhere in there.
they created them.
It's so bad. So they find Ripley's DNA, they clone her, but it has, like you said, the Queen has like some of her DNA in there. This whole movie is Sigourney Weaver staring at people like she either wants to eat them or fuck them, touching a lot of faces, like just like touching faces and like staring at you, overly like weird sexual energy the whole time, as if she's like mysterious and I know what's going on. I'm femme fatale.
They get more sexual as the movies go on, which is
The ultimate irony, because the first one had literal psychosexual imagery on all the walls and stuff from like H.R. Geiger's drawings, but like this movie is so convoluted and bad, and the final 15 minutes some of the shots in general are just, they have a zoom in shot where a dude's screaming and we zoom down his throat and you have a little smiling xenomorph that screams at you and it zooms back out and kills him.
Yeah, they show the Xenomorph like in his chest, like they go down his throat.
Like literally,
Cool
like
in concept, maybe.
yeah, except but then you go down this weird little puppet they built and it's a smiling little puppet xenomorph. The newborn.
It's the worst part of the movie by far. It's the worst part of the
Do
franchise.
me a favor, just look up a photo of it so you can be on the same plane as us right now. Alien
It's
newborn.
The facial design.
The human alien hybrid that understands Sigourney Weaver and treats her like the queen.
Treats her like its mother, like she's its
Right.
mother.
They also have a face touching make out fuck sequence. Yeah. So yeah, it's
Look at it standing up. It
me,
looks like the body
just
movement
so
of the
bad.
Men in Black worms.
It does
Like
actually.
It has that pot belly.
it's that same puppet, literally.
When they show the wide of it, I laughed out loud.
Dude, and then so it's a practical puppet. So when it dies, it's screaming for a couple minutes pretty viciously as it's getting sucked out from its back, like you said. It's just a puppet. So you have someone going like the Gremlins movies. Like it's a really like big puppet kind of going like this.
And just really horrible CGI of the little
Shaking
bits of
the
its
camera.
body being
It's
sucked
just
out.
so jokey and bad, dude.
I feel like it doesn't look as bad as what you guys are describing.
You gotta see it.
You have to see it in motion.
I don't know if you could
I'm
show.
afraid
Listen,
to.
I don't know if you can show this on the podcast, but like show it in motion real fast.
We can
it's
show
not- it's
whatever
mouth.
we want.
It's
on
Just
the
an
podcast.
alien newborn death scene. Just
They
right.
made its mouth more humanoid, and the eyes are like these hollow husks. It just is nightmarish.
Yeah, it's really fucking bad. And then also every character in this movie is just poorly written and joking.
face.
Yeah, where she's gonna kiss it goodbye.
There's also a scene where a guy kisses the glass against the xenomorph, like pressing its face up against the glass.
Yeah.
Most awkward,
Why
like
is there
weird
so
plot
many
points.
alien kisses?
They
Dude,
make it really sexual. Like she
It's
just
very sexual and
she-
weird.
She just like kisses somebody at one point, and she I don't know.
also she has a line when she goes to the cruise, like, "Who would I gotta fuck around here to get off the ship or whatever?" It's
It
like,
made no sense. That's not how Ripley. I know she's a
but it's
clone.
not Ripley. It's Ripley 8.
Yeah, I know it's a clone, whatever, but it's just has nothing like her. I don't even think her sleeping with the guy in 3 is anything like her.
Dude, this goes on for minutes.
I know that was like the same shot, wasn't it?
Yeah, man. They always
There's
kill.
repeat-
and
Repeating shots?
she's longingly staring at it the whole time, like
Yeah,
as if
that's
she has a connection
Yeah,
to
that-
it.
those are the exact
so
same
this
shots.
thing imprinted on her instead of imprinting on the actual queen.
It kills the queen.
So that's
The
why
newborn
it's like,
kills the
"You're
queen.
are you my mommy?"
Guys, spoiler alert for Aliens movies.
Obviously.
And these fucking dudes also like, oh yeah, and then they crash on Earth, and obviously it's bad.
There's some cool stuff visually in this movie, I will say though. There's like some of the redeeming qualities are some of the cool visual stuff to me. It's not a lot, but there's a scene where he's like, "Do you want some whiskey?" And he puts the glass down, and then he puts a cube into it, like a solid cube. A laser shoots it, and it like turns into whiskey, and it looks pretty good. It's a cool
The
concept. as well.
coolest part of the movie
Is when they make
is
the
when
whiskey.
they melted ice with a laser.
I'll tell you what, it is the most
You
memorable
heard it
part.
here first, folks.
It is my favorite part of the movie.
Brutal. This came out in 1997.
I saw this in theaters when I was 8 years old with my dad. Probably shouldn't have taken me to it. We both were laughing.
Can you
like?
look-
I did not find this scary.
Can you look up Ridley Plays Basketball?
Yeah.
What?
Oh my god. They put it.
This is Shat's favorite part of the movie.
This is a shot they added to this movie just
it.
to show her
Oh,
that she's like.
Ripley. Sorry, Ripley Plays Basketball.
Yeah, they added a shot just to show that she's cool. Should I describe it here? Let them watch it fast. Are you guys showing this on the podcast? This okay. Ripley basketball. Yeah, there it is right there. They added this shot just to like for a character detail, like, oh, she's so cool.
This here?
Yeah.
Which they filmed the shot of her. She throws the ball behind her back and scores, and they filmed it practically. There's a fun behind the scenes with Ron Perlman where he says he almost ruined the shot because he got really excited that she
I've
made
heard
it.
of that, actually.
Yeah, so she's just playing basketball. Look at her dunk.
Dunking.
Yeah.
Because she's hybrid with the xenomorph. Don't forget, she's
This
super
is
fast and
literally
strong.
the shot from Catwoman.
They sexualize her a lot throughout all the movies, though. She's naked in
Sure.
half naked in all the movies.
Part of that is like you said with the religious imagery. They do stuff like that, but here she's a sexual entity for no reason other than like the xenomorph baby's like young and doesn't know things.
I think a big part of it back in the day was vulnerability. They believed it for horror increased fear to have characters vulnerable, naked, half nude. And it's also an excuse to show audiences naked people, which they know audiences.
that's
like.
really what it is. It's let her get her lead actress because she does need to be more powerful. After Alien 2, like Aliens, she's fucking powerful.
What part are you guys specifically?
It's right. It's when she walks out at the end, she just shoots it behind her back. So here's her beating on all these people because she's
This part is
amazing.
what I think is really awkward. She's passing the ball back and forth with
Yeah.
her hands behind his head. It's super awkward, and it's not athletic to do
No,
this with a
it's-
ball.
It is a scene that does.
That's her blood on the ground.
Who wrote this
showing
in a
its
script?
acid.
Like, who wrote this? Also, every character is just what they are. So Ron Perlman's a mean dude. The guy in the wheelchair has got a weird voice guy in a wheelchair. Everyone just has one. There it is.
They had to see how quick they cut it because they were hiding Ron Perlman's
Yeah,
reaction.
everyone is just very one note. This is kind of where Prometheus kind of gets. It's starting to go down that lane of like very one note character. They only do one thing and they die. So yeah, this is a really bad movie. This, in my opinion, is the worst Alien franchise movie.
Until the
bar
newborn
none.
shows up, the aliens look miles better in this than they do in Alien 3. They show them moving in water. They
is
show them special effects, CGI generated from a distance, and it looks okay because they used more darkness and water and tricks
Yeah.
to hide it in this movie.
They also knew they would have to show them way more.
6.2 9db again, 1997, $60 million budget, $160 million in the box office.
It's so bad and it made that much money.
This
still.
is where the lore of Aliens starts to, not starts, but this is where it really starts. I'd say the highest level of not making sense to me is in Resurrections, because they crash the Auriga at the end of this movie to kill all the xenomorphs on board. It's this big U.S. military ship. They crash it into a supposedly uninhabited sector of Earth. But
It's
if you
Earth.
look at different versions of source material for it, it's in one it's the Australian outback, in one it's Paris, France, in one it's another place, because there's all these different sources for Alien. There's all these prologues and written texts and comic books and games and stuff. It's all in different places, but the explosion, the size of the explosion in this movie looks like it would destroy the Earth. And it's like
they nuked. It's an asteroid.
they're
hitting
like,
the
they're
Earth.
like, we've got to save Earth from the xenomorphs, so let's destroy Earth. And then
It does work.
and then I've also heard alien lore saying that the reason that they're colonizing in the prequel movies is because Earth is uninhabitable, climate change and war have destroyed Earth. So why did they go back to Earth at the end of Alien Resurrections if Earth is like this uninhabitable wasteland? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Because Ridley Scott's not acknowledging the other movies, so you have to basically pretend these ones don't exist.
Which realistically you should, because even if they were
your own-
okay
for your own
movies,
mental health.
they don't advance the story at all. I didn't learn anything that I didn't already know with these last two movies.
You didn't learn that The Newborn is a combination of Ridley and...
But also, like, that movie takes place 200 years later from anything I'd seen previously.
Yeah.
So like,
It's
whatever.
Why do you like this franchise so much?
Because the first two were really fucking good movies, and I have faith that someone can do it again, which is why Romulus looks so good. It's like clearly someone liked those movies and like attached onto the things that made it cool.
It must be so nice to live life with so much hope.
optimism.
Yeah, I have to, man.
I think Romulus looks good. I agree with you. I think Romulus looks like it's going back to the roots of Alien and trying to do
Yes.
a sci-fi horror flick on a ship.
It looks really, really good. And
Okay.
it could show that it can be done. Like Prometheus was almost there.
I'd like to end this episode, not right now, obviously, but watching the trailer.
For Romulus?
Yeah.
Yeah, we should.
I haven't even seen it.
We got to watch the original one, though. The first one they dropped because
Sure.
they've put...
They reneged on the second one. They took it out of theaters because it showed too much, right?
It really showed what that movie was going to be.
Yeah.
Like, I turned it off as I was watching it because I could tell.
I mean, come on. You never watch second trailers. It's like
You're
it's
right.
a rule.
You're
Yeah.
not wrong.
They always show
I
too
didn't.
much.
I only watched the first Deadpool Wolverine trailer, and I saved some of the cameos that they wanted to just spoil in the next trailer.
I know, they showed Sabretooth. Yeah, it's
And
crazy.
Pyro. They showed them both.
And X-23.
And X-23.
That was
Yeah.
a stupid one.
That was dumb.
They treated
Yeah.
it like a reveal in
And
the
the
movie.
Russian. Technically, he was in that trailer, too.
Yeah. So the next two movies we're not really going to talk about too much, right? Alien vs. Predator and Alien vs. Predator.
I mean, if you want to talk about them,
So they're not official. Here, I told
Ridley Scott
Andrew
hates
before.
because they take place on like the Earth. Don't they take place in like 2004?
Yeah.
But the alien didn't exist until like 20.
So, all right,
100.
Yeah.
Real fast nutshell. In Predator 2, the original movie, there's the ending of the movie. Danny Glover goes into the Predator ship, and there's a xenomorph skull on the wall to suggest that the Predator hunted the xenomorph, and they're in the same universe. I'm pretty sure that one Easter egg was the inception of the idea for AVP, because they did Freddy vs. Jason first, and that kind of sucked. And then Alien vs. Predator was the same kind of vein, but I think Alien vs. Predator first movie is worth watching. I think there's some cool concepts of how a predator would hunt an alien, how an alien would hide, how it would interact with people who are just stuck in the middle.
I liked it as a kid.
I really enjoyed it. Alien vs. Predator 2 Requiem is trash. It is straight up shock horror,
Worse than
trash movie.
Resurrections?
Yes. Yeah, it is.
IMDb says so too.
Resurrections had a plot that they wanted to get through. AVP Requiem is really just murder porn. It is gross. It's over the top gross for the sake of being gross. Like there's a scene in a newborn ICU after some chest bursters come through. Like did I need to see an ICU with a no? It's shock value. If there's no
Requiem
story,
has a
it's not good.
4.6 on IMDb.
It's a
It
rough
really is
rating.
worth skipping. AVP is fun enough to watch and enjoy it, even though it's entirely detached from anything in the franchise. That's all you really need to know about it.
It's just cool to see Alien fight Predator.
It's cool. There's good choreography. Like they did a good job with that movie, and the humans are not too annoying in it.
Oh, and one thing I wanted to touch on this while we briefly pass over it is: do you guys prefer Alien or Predator? Xenomorph or Predator in terms of the creature and not the movies? Because I drastically prefer the Predator.
I haven't seen Predator.
I don't know if I can answer that right now.
Need some time to gestate on it. By the end of the episode, maybe.
Because again, it's like just from the first movie, Xenomorph, where the franchise has taken them, Predator.
The first Predator movie is more fun, though. It's an fun action movie.
It is, but
compared
they
to-
show as more Predator movies have come, they've just made him more gear and tools, and so I think he's cooler now because he's got so many gadgets. But there's something so unsettling about. It's the double mouth. Like
I
that,
love the face of the
There was
Predator.
nothing like that.
Oh, the
It's
Xenomorph?
so unsettling.
I
Yeah.
think the Predator's face is cooler than the Xenomorph's, but that's
But you
just
didn't
me.
even did you see the Predator face in the first movie?
I think so. His mask gets knocked
At
off
the
and
end,
he
yes,
has,
it
like,
does.
that-
Yeah, but it's just the jowls.
Yeah.
yeah. They're both really cool.
They're both really
Clearly, they keep making those movies over and over again. They're like timeless characters.
cool. Oh, we're steamrolling towards AVP 3. I'm telling you, it's coming down the pipeline.
We'll do it.
Okay, the next one.
Prometheus.
In release order. Actually, the earliest movie in terms
Yes.
of timeline order.
A flawed movie, but some cool ideas. Not a great execution, if you ask me. But it's not a bad movie. It is just a movie I thought they did not need to make, and probably could have not made.
I think considering the movie outside of the Alien franchise it's a better movie. I think it still poses the overall problem of the Alien franchise I don't like, where they just don't explain enough and create more
That's what I
questions
like,
than
though.
answers.
I like them not explaining. I hate that they go into so much like detail.
I think it means like not explaining in connections of movies.
I feel like to me, yeah, mostly that, because I'm wondering, they're on planet LV-223, and how does this connect to the original Alien where they're on LV-426?
Oh.
Why wouldn't they just
Yeah.
have gone to LV-426 and have them connect right there?
Yeah, he's talking about like the overall world building,
Gotcha.
How
not
did
like
they-
the individual movie, like an Alien, where they didn't explain a lot, and
I got
you
you.
didn't see the alien very much.
I like the mystery of the first Alien. I think,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a good way to explain the difference of what I'm saying.
Well, that is what Covenant's there for, right? It's like half
It bridges the
Prometheus
gap.
and then half Alien.
It bridges the gap between
does.
Prometheus and Alien, but it doesn't they still don't do any more time on LV-426, which would bring us up to how, like, we're supposed to be explaining how we got to Alien, right? With all these prevolutions of the Xenomorph.
Honestly, you know what it needed? It needed like the end of Rogue One. Just like seeing the ship going and like, oh yeah, there's Leia and the Vader sees it. So when it goes to the next movie, you have that like, oh, he saw her and he knew
Yeah.
she was lying.
Like,
Because there's nothing, because they could have just had it be that same ship. There's no reason not to.
all they do is make it more confusing to how, like, these stories are unrelated to how that ship crashed on LV-426, because if they were getting into the same ship that the ending of Prometheus takes on, then there would be a dead human skeletons
Yeah.
on there, like Wayland would be on there, you know.
You know what? Also, realistically, they probably shouldn't have had David. It probably should have been Ash or an android that we saw already from previous. Because then when David does his thing, or the evil David, Wayne, what was his name?
It's
From
with a
Covenant,
W.
the other-
Crap, it's with a W.
The non-David
David
David.
and-
Like, there's no, like, you're right. They're different androids because the android could be the thing that ties it together. Technically, Wayland Industries is the thing that ties it together. But, like, you could have had something where that character goes to that ship and then there you have a direct tie-in. And because you don't, it does feel like there's these two universes that they're trying to make happen. Almost like we're missing another movie to connect Covenant to Alien 1.
I feel like they were intentionally leaving space for that, but it feels.
But then they
wrong.
realized, hey, let's do Romulus and not just do cash grab movies.
People weren't liking the prequel settings.
No,
so
dude, they
then
were not good. They really just weren't good. Like,
Yeah.
entertaining. Also, Prometheus is long. Characters made dumb decisions.
They got really into David, though. They got really into David with Prometheus, and he's arguably just as big a plot point in Covenant too. But
he is the movie.
in Prometheus, he's doing things that just seem like pure experimentation on his part out of curiosity rather than actual motivations and plot. Like, he takes a drop of the black goo, which, in case you were wondering, does have 5 names in the Alien franchise. It's also called the pathogen. It's also called AO3959X.91-15.
That's the one I most remember it by.
Why the hell would you name it that? Why would you name it that? So he takes
It's
a
like
drop.
my lunch number.
Yeah.
He takes a drop of it and puts it into a drink that he hands to
The eyeball dude.
eyeball dude.
Yeah, the guy his
his eyes
eyes are all
little worm in
fucked
it.
up. Yeah,
And he just to see what
the
happens.
lesser Tom Hardy is who that guy is. I forget his name.
Yeah, I know that's what I call him too. Everyone apparently says he looks
It's
like
the guy
Tom
from
Hardy.
the guy from Upload. Remember I showed you it's that guy.
Oh yeah.
The tiny Tom Hardy.
He's in Devil, the movie.
He's
with the
actually a really good
elevator.
actor, but
Yeah.
like he definitely looks like a smaller Tom Hardy.
He's good in this movie too, honestly.
See, that's why it pays to be.
yeah,
bigger.
he is. The acting in the movie is good. It's just the character motivations.
But there's, for whatever reason, the black goo is one of the hardest things for me to understand. And then the evolution of the, like, aliens. The evolution of the different forms that become the xenomorph is so hard for me to follow.
So is the black goo the engineer's DNA that dissolved into the water in the beginning? Because it turns into like a black husk and dissolves away. Is that the goo? Is that what we're led to believe?
He takes the black goo and ingests it, and that causes that.
Okay, so we're led to believe that this race just found the goo,
yeah.
figured out what the goo does.
Or they invented it, which is, I think, the prevailing theory. So,
Again,
the
more questions than
yeah.
answers.
The black goo is, or affectionately known,
Give me the number.
AO3959X.91-15.
Yeah, I'm gonna name my first kid that.
Okay, Elon.
It's a mutagen, from what I understand. And by the way,
Yes, it changes DNA.
Not only have I watched 6 movies, but I've watched a bunch of YouTube videos, read Reddit forums. I've been all over researching, and I still have a hard time understanding it. So if you feel like you were confused, don't feel bad, because
Or if
it's-
you can explain it to us.
it's
It's go in the
yeah,
comments,
if you
please.
do know, tell us in the comments. But it's very poorly explained in the movies for sure. And then even when you watch fan theories and all this other stuff, it's still hard to understand why the engineers do what they did, how the xenomorphs evolve, what David's motivations are,
That's the
what the
mystery
chemical
of
is.
it. That's the magic.
but that's
too
the-
many questions.
But that's the problem is the script is clearly purposely doing that.
It's annoying.
They're asking questions because they want to have it be vague.
So why does the
Also,
so-
when they were making that movie, he said the entire time this is not an alien movie. And then at the end, when they throw in the protomorph at the very end, that felt like a reshoot almost. Because the whole time they were marketing that movie, it's not an alien movie. It's something new. It's different. It's not connected. And then wait, is that a space jockey in that photo? It's and then slowly teasing things coming out.
Yeah, it kind of killed the fan theories because people had theories for the space jockey back when it was called that before they gave it a name.
They called it the engineer.
Yeah, now it has a name. So it kind of ruined all the theories and mystery that people had from Alien 1. You know, you go online in
Yeah.
forums in the 70s or in the 80s and 90s, and it was just theories.
But
for
it doesn't
Alien.
ruin it because the director said it's this, so that's what it is.
It's frustrating. It's so
Don't make prequels.
So what happens?
stop.
To explain to you guys what happens with the black goo is when it interacts with
soapbox.
with life forms, it does one of 3 things. It'll completely break down its DNA and kill it, like in the
engineer.
in the opening of
Yeah.
Prometheus, the engineer that falls into the water, which is supposed to apparently spawn life on Earth.
That's that it mutated all of life based on that one guy. They planted the seed to make man so man can make android.
Yeah. Or it mutates them, which gives them super strength and a grotesque appearance, like happens to the
Tom Hardy.
the geologist and the lesser Tom Hardy in Prometheus. Or it can impregnate them with a new species that, like the backburster that comes out
In Covenant.
Yeah, in Covenant, because when the goo hits the air, it turns into this aerosol form that climbs into people's ears and mouth and nostrils and impregnates them with the backburster.
The goo can be whatever you need it to be for your plot.
So they have the chest and the back burster?
in Covenant, there's a backburster, which
bursts-
is it's the neomorph, I think.
It bursts
Yeah,
wherever
neomorph.
it can get out of. Essentially, it was a really really cool shot of it. It bursts out of the spine, and the dude's spine falls down. It's gross, but it's cool. And then it for me it proceeds to gremlin style rip up this poor woman.
Yeah, that one's a white creature that's kind of xenomorph-esque shaped, and it's small. It grows a little bit faster when it first
That's the praetomorph.
comes. Well, the praetomorph
Is the one after that before the full Xeno?
Yeah, the praetomorph is the one from the ending of
We
Covenant.
we didn't need any of this. Dude, I need evolution forms, Pokemon style for the Xenomorph? No.
This is a lot.
But again, I know I'm half joking, but the prequels, but I really do not like it when they make a movie to specifically ask more questions for a sequel to a prequel. Mm-hmm. They didn't make the movie because they wanted to tell more about Alien. They wanted to make Alien toys again. They wanted to have the name back up.
I find it hard to watch it as a complete franchise when they make prequels, because
It is.
if you do start to watch it in timeline order, it's such a drastic change of filmmaking.
It is, especially for this franchise, because if you start with Prometheus and they ask questions for a question you don't even know yet, and then when you get to Alien and maybe they say the word space jockey once.
Yeah.
I don't think they say it.
I think it was on the concept art. It was labeled.
Yeah.
Like there's no lore to find in the later movies when you'd be like searching for it. It's like, oh, I can't wait to the third movie when they really tell me about this, because they're working retroactively. That information just doesn't exist.
The
in those early
engineers are
movies.
never a plot point in anything besides Alien.
It's all like hieroglyphic art. Like there really is nothing overt other than like specific little instances.
I think it's crazy how they went from like a slasher movie with a lot of mystery and the xenomorph being a creature horror movie to answering the questions of life and how did we get here and the origins of humanity in Prometheus. It's
Isn't that what it's all about?
It's such a different approach. Like this engineer took the black goo, fell into the water, had the spawn of genesis of life on Earth, and then best I can tell from fan theories is that the humans like disappointed the engineers in some way, whether because there's a theory that somewhere along the line people got the idea that they decided to wipe out humanity with the black goo 2,000 years ago, and the theory is that they sent an engineer back to Earth to try and fix things because humans were fighting amongst themselves and what have you, warring and destroying the planet, and they maybe not destroying the planet at that point, but they sent an engineer back who would have been the Christ figure, and then humans killed it. And then the engineers took that as the last straw, and they were going to send the black goo back to Earth because there's plans in Prometheus showing guide routes to Earth, which they were presumably going to take their biological weapon of the black goo there, because that biological weapon is what they use to like wipe out planets. You can drop it in the air; it becomes an aerosol form, as we see in Covenant, and just wipe out a civilization.
So I think some of that is actually confirmed. They made us. And then we did not become what they wanted, so they also made the xenomorphs to take us out. So they could turn a planet into a xenomorph by dropping this aerosolized black goo, and then you have weapons to then implement onto other races and planets and stuff.
The confusing part is they used their experimentation to create the early forms of the xenomorph, and like it was touching onto organisms like the worm in Prometheus.
Right.
But the real xenomorph we know is created later by David, melding the neomorph DNA with the black goo further to make a perfect organism.
See, again,
because
and this
David
is
wants
where
to play God, and he wants to make the perfect organism.
So this is again where it gets confusing, because then where did the neomorph come from?
So
Did the neomorph mutate from an engineer? Did they create that?
the neomorph.
Because it asks more questions than it answers. Again,
Yeah, the one of the early forms, the Deacon, is the little form of the xenomorph that we see at the end.
Band of Prometheus, little white guy.
Is only created by chance because the discount Tom Hardy sleeps with the female protagonist. She gets pregnant. The monster that she has cut out of her stomach grows and gestates into like an early form of a face hugger that looks like a giant squid.
Right.
That wraps onto the engineer, which then creates the Deacon, which is like the early form of a xenomorph, which I don't even know why it's included in the story.
Because it was shoehorned in at the end.
Yeah.
Again, it doesn't. I don't know.
It doesn't even
doesn't
have the
work for me.
characteristic mouth piece of the xenomorph.
No, because it wasn't. It was a little tacked on, added thing to be like, this is an Alien franchise movie. I don't know.
Yeah, it's so hard to follow the production of the different monsters and how the black goo relates to it. Like, why are they making Earth-destroying weapons? Why are the engineers just experimenting by creating life and then destroying it? Is when she says at the end of Prometheus that she wants to go to where the engineers are from, do they actually go there in Covenant?
Nope.
Or is Planet 4 just another colony created by the engineers? Which seems to be the theory that most people favor because the movie doesn't tell you and you just
Yeah.
have to theorize.
It's supposed to be a colony.
Because then David wipes out that whole colony
Yes,
with the black
because
goo and creates the xenomorph
the
there.
colony.
It's like Noah's Ark.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, the colony was a better sample for him to create a bunch of chest bursters and xenomorphs.
I think Michael Fassbender delivers a great performance as synthetics in both movies.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Prometheus looks really cool when he's riding around on the bike, shooting the basketball and stuff. Like he has these robotic maneuvers.
More basketball?
It is actually a callback. Also, Prometheus. They,
really cool.
They play basketball a couple times in Prometheus, actually. Yeah.
But also just his general movement. His general.
Well, they got to kill some time.
His general movement feels really like precise and planned, and he feels like gyroscopic too. Like even when David is in the rocking, cars on the material on the uneven terrain of the planet in Prometheus, he's like more stable than everyone else. So he has a really cool robotic feel to him. I feel like his voice sells it. Also, a cool detail that they unveiled in Covenant, even though it's a trash movie, is that he chose his own name based off the David, the sculpture from Michelangelo.
Yeah, that's cool. I honestly, like, no lie, I actually think they made Covenant because of how good of a performance he did in Prometheus. Because the movie is him acting.
They brought him
as
back
two
doubly.
characters,
and one of the coolest in one of the worst movies has one of the coolest fight scenes in Covenant, or one of the coolest scenes overall, because the fight between
Covenant had some cool scenes, like director wise, like some of the death scenes and some of the sequences are cool.
Don't you love the fight between David Eight and the other synthetic played by Michael Fassbender? I've got to find his name.
Is Wayne?
It's not Wayne. I said it earlier in the episode too.
You did. That's why I thought you'd have
Bruce.
it. But yeah.
Prometheus did pretty good in the box office. It had
Walter.
$125 million budget, and it made $402.5 million.
Yeah.
People
were like...
Sorry.
No, please go ahead.
So that came out in 2012, and then Covenant came out in 2017 with a $97 million budget. So it's interesting that it kind of went down $30 million and only brought in a little over half.
Yeah.
$238.5 million.
So Prometheus was, it's like Phantom Menace. It was so many years after the two people had to go see this fucking movie from their childhood.
And it's the return of Ridley Scott.
Yes.
And it's Ridley Scott now doing an Alien movie with incredible special effects.
Prometheus is the only one that doesn't have Alien in the name.
Yeah.
Which I think is strange to not call it Alien Prometheus, honestly. But he wanted to separate
I'm telling you, it wasn't supposed to be an Alien movie. Because I remember the
it's
production.
weird that they didn't even go back and change it to bring it in, because literally
honestly,
everything else has Alien.
They should do the episode titles like Star Wars does to put these fucking movies in order.
Ridley Scott is obsessed with apparently ancient civilizations and ancient religions, ancient aliens. So I think he wanted to make an ancient aliens movie, and attaching Alien to it was the only way he
get it done.
Get it done with the budget.
I would believe that, because then Covenant was also just there wasn't great word of mouth. Like the reviews were like, yeah, you want to go see some aliens kill some people? That's what this movie is.
Prometheus 7 on IMDb, Covenant 6.4. Not terrible.
No, there's demonstrable problems with 3 and 4 that you could point to as being a bad movie. Covenant is just not perfect. Like it's a popcorn movie. You can enjoy that movie. Like you wouldn't be I don't think you'd be mad at it. Whereas I was mad at Resurrection. I was slightly mad at 3.
I basically just enjoy watching Prometheus and Covenant for Michael Fassbender's performance and the visuals. Because especially Prometheus, I think, has great visuals.
Yeah.
Like the whole sequence where he has the holographic imagery in the...
Even the cesarean scene is harrowing.
Yeah, it's really well done with that pod, the little medical
And again,
pod.
he's really good at showing these cool sci-fi ideas, like really broad strokes.
It's good at connecting emotion, building fear, and wonderment too. I mean, the landscapes... It's a beautiful movie throughout, whether it's the interior sets or the shots of, I think it's Ireland, Scotland.
I believe so,
the
yeah.
beginning of Prometheus.
I think it's Scotland.
I could just sit there and watch it, for hours.
That's also why the budget was more, because he had locations. Covenant, I'm pretty sure it's all inside, and everything that's outside is CG. Oh, I just reminded, that fucking ending scene with they're on top of the ship, scraping as it's flying through. That's Covenant, right? The xenomorphs are outside of their ship, clawing at as it's crashing. I think it's Covenant.
In Covenant, there's only one there's one predomorph / xenomorph, and it does get on top of Danny McBride and try to bash its head in.
Danny McBride is dude. Danny McBride steals that movie. I forgot about him entirely.
He plays Tennessee.
He's actually really good. He's really good. All right.
Do you guys have anything else to say on the Alien franchise before we move into watching the trailer for the newest entry?
I think overall, it's a really good franchise with a solid foundation. But as with most things, it gets muddied. How many good Jason movies, how many good Freddy Krueger movies are there actually when they muddy the water? But for me, there's still something inherently awesome about these movies and this creature design that always brings me back to want to watch them.
What does Romulus mean? Is that the name of an alien? Or?
Romulus is a galaxy, I believe, right?
My understanding, I think it sounds familiar, but my understanding of it is Romulus and Remus are the name of the brothers from the mythology of the founding of Rome. So,
I like that.
So
okay.
That actually makes more sense with all of his ancient
a lot of references to Roman mythology.
Romulus is a legendary founder and first king of Rome.
Now, who's directing this one?
This is the guy that did
Fede Alvarez. He did Evil Dead Rise.
He did the Evil Dead, the previous one that sounded pretty fucking good. And again, that's also I think why I'm excited. He slit a movie into a franchise that's established and did really well.
Sorry, Evil Dead, not Evil Dead Rise.
No, he did the straight up remake one from a couple years ago.
So right now, I'm not very excited to see this movie. So I'm curious to see how the trailer, if it draws me
Have
in.
you seen this trailer?
No.
Oh, really?
I haven't seen it.
No,
And,
okay,
and
so-
also knowing that it's in between the first two, Alien and Aliens, makes it way more appealing.
Exactly.
Than it being tied to the other 7 movies that there
Exactly.
are.
And that's what I was saying earlier about Terminator. Terminator was picking and choosing where they wanted a sequel to be into their storyline, and it failed every time.
Yeah.
This, I think, is
You're
so
saying
specific and
Terminator
tailored.
Genesis and Dark Fate are failures? That's crazy.
And Salvation. There's more of them. But there's clearly a defined vision for what this movie is. The guy making it has already done with previous franchises, sliding movies into it. There clearly is, when you watch this trailer, it feels like Alien.
The special effect and visuals look great.
Yes, it feels like Alien and not Aliens. It's very much more like survival horror.
Okay.
And that's really doing it for me.
I think that watching the prequel or watching all the movies kind of dampened my excitement to watch Romulus.
It does, man, honestly.
But I still think it looks cool.
All right, so we'll right now scale 1 to 10. And you've already seen the trailer, I guess, but
I've seen this trailer.
scale 1 to 10. How excited are we to see this movie? I'd say probably like a 1. Right
I know,
now.
easily an 8.
I'd say 7.
7. Okay.
Again,
So-
I'm gonna watch this right now. Just feel it. Like think of like Alien and Aliens specifically.
This guy's trying to sell you on Romulus.
because like I've
Watch it with your heart, not your brain.
all the other trailers they've
I
done for
am
the previous
a
movie,
wild robot.
even Covenant, like they feel like action movie trailers. Like, please come see this. This feels like someone actually made a movie they want you to see, and they're doing a good.
Well, then let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Alien Romulus. We'll start over.
Take 2.
Alien Romulus trailer reaction. Here we go.
Give me that full screen.
Is this really where you want to spend the rest of your life?
You know I don't.
Then this is our only ticket out of here.
What's happening?
There's something in the water.
What do you mean there's something in the
No,
water?
there's just something in the fucking water. Fucking thing's hunting us.
Open the door, come on.
Run.
Are you sure you want to do this?
It looks like a zero gravity sequence where they're trying to get away from a whole bunch of alien acid blood floating in the air. That's got to be a crazy sequence. Just slowly floating towards it, not being able to grab onto anything. Acid
Yeah.
in the air.
How spooky does that look?
That was crazy. That looked good. That looked good.
Right?
It's a good trailer. The no one can hear you scream part when they
when it actually
deafen
goes,
the volume.
dude, and then slowly building the letters. Now, it could just be a good trailer. Good trailers get me all the time. But that to me says, hey, I love those two movies and know what they are, and
Yeah.
I'm going to try to make that.
Yeah.
That felt, I can see the slow pacing from that trailer. I can see long hallway shots with like sound design and shit. Like
The set looks great. The aliens look good. The face huggers look amazing.
also,
It
there's-
looks true to the first one.
yes, it's not an action movie.
does.
Like
Well,
it.
my thing's always been if in 1979 they could make a good alien movie on $11 million, why can't we make a good alien movie now with
Yeah,
$100
with
million?
just a giant in a latex suit. You know, like a
Very
good
limited,
costume and like
yeah.
knowing how to light things.
And their sets look so good. Why don't we make more sets like that nowadays?
So
and do more miniature work.
Fede Alvarez did an interview specifically. Most of this movie is practical. The ship they built. A lot of these long desert shots and stuff they found. Like he is trying to go a practical standpoint for most of this movie, and I think it's going to also matter a lot. The xenomorph was practical at the end. There, it's clearly a puppet that someone. It looks fucking great.
For Alien 1979, they literally built the derelict ship, you know, not to scale of the story, but it's the ship itself, I think, is the height of a human. It's like 5-6 feet. And then they built this huge environment around it with like these rocky cliffs from LV-426. And, which by the way, LV apparently has never been explained what that is. And it's the name of at least 2 prominent planets in the story. The best guess is LV stands for life viable.
Nice.
But
I dig it.
they're building these awesome miniatures and incredibly detailed, like the Nostromo miniatures. They have miniatures, obviously a ton on the set of Aliens from James Cameron with all these, you know, little vehicles they're driving around, the APV and things like that. Awesome miniatures. I mean, it just feels like a lot of fun to watch those movies because you can marvel at that stuff, even if I don't enjoy the plots that much, but I can marvel at the filmmaking.
Yeah, it almost looks too, I mean, it's a trailer, so what do you know? But it looks like it kind of stands on its own a little bit. Like it's not too worried about,
Totally.
you know.
When you watch the actual movie, Ripley's going to show back up. Sigourney Weaver has her head on the alien.
It just, it's like a deep fake, but it's her. But now she looks younger and all that.
Exactly.
I really hope they don't do that. Don't give me any de-aged Sigourney Weaver. We're going to do it as is.
I wonder how they're going to come into contact with the xenomorph in this
Nope.
movie. I'm curious.
I think that's the plot. It's just another ship, and they just come across one the same way as it happened in Alien.
Just chance.
Chance, yeah. Basically,
Well,
someone.
Nostromo wasn't really chance, I guess I should say.
No, they took an egg where they shouldn't have, and the facehugger got on board.
Well, the mother, the ship, the corporation Wayland wanted them to go there to go find the xenomorph because they wanted to sell it. But also, by the way, Mother, I had to look up what this was. Like they talk to it, but they don't overtly explain what it is. It's MU-TH-R, like 6000, and it's the name of the AI computer system that runs the ship. It basically just follows the mission of the Wayland Corporation. And then when you get to 4, you have Father 6000, which is the military's version of Mother.
It's 200 years later. We had to change the name.
Interesting. Mother was only in the first one, right? It wasn't in the second one, was it?
I don't remember, to be honest.
I don't
think it
remember
was.
it being. I just watched it. I don't remember them talking to Mother in the second one.
I don't think
But
so, because it's like the military.
I don't remember because they had more characters to talk to each other.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
remember a lot of ship interaction in 2.
In the first one, it's the U.S. CSS, which is like the United States Colonial Space Service something, and then in the second one, it's like the U.S. Marines, the Space Marines.
It's Space Marines.
So it's not.
It's quite literally Space
Yeah.
Marines, which
So-
I've always thought was hilarious. It sounds so
yeah.
goofy, but like.
Well, we have this. We have Space Force now. So
But like again, what would you call it? You have Air Force, you have Sea Force, Land Force, you have Space Force. Like they're Space Marines.
fair enough. But yeah, it's a different company. They're doing a military mission with Burke on board. Burke is the representative of Wayland Yutani, whereas in the first one, Nostromo is the Wayland Yutani Corporation.
Well, I think overall that trailer worked. I'm more excited now than I was
The
before.
trailer looks good.
I'd say like a 6 or a 7. I can't tell if it's the trailer was really good or if it's me trying to convince myself that it doesn't have connection to everything else. That's what like makes me more excited.
Both. Yeah. I think the trailer is very good.
But yeah, it looks like a movie I'd see in theaters.
Yeah, it looks like a movie.
It looks
No,
like
I'm excited
for
to
it,
see
yeah.
Romulus as well. I think it's got a cool name. It's got a cool aesthetic. I'm excited to see what this director is going to do next, and the cast is pretty cool too.
they're gonna make their own trilogy of this within
All
the
in between the
trilogy.
two movies. I mean, there's 47 years to play with, and that's a long time.
I hate it. I hate that idea.
They might actually make 4. I heard.
Just so you guys
Oh,
know,
yeah?
just
Yeah.
to explain the timeline, Alien takes place 2122, and Aliens, the sequel, takes place in 2179. So,
After a brief cryo sleep.
and then they decide to go all the way back to 2100 in Prometheus. It's 2093. I don't know why they do this. So how would you rank the movies?
And I rank them?
6 Alien movies, not counting AVP.
I would do worst to first or first to worst. Let me do first to worst. It's easier for me. My favorite is Aliens. Second favorite is Alien. Yeah.
Then Prometheus, right?
And then you
I mean,
stop.
I would do. I would.
I think we're good, guys.
I would say then Prometheus, then Alien.
No, I would do.
Then Prometheus, then Covenant, right? Then
No.
3, then 4.
It's Aliens, Alien.
You're not gonna do Prometheus next. Then what are you gonna do?
I was thinking Covenant, Prometheus, Alien 3.
You like Covenant
Alien
more
4.
than Prometheus?
Prometheus is not a good movie.
It's-
It is convoluted, and I've been saying it the whole time. It is the definition of why prequels should not be made.
But it looks awesome, and Michael Fassbender.
Cool. So they got a guy with a camera to shoot something nice at a cool location. Great
Yeah.
movie. It doesn't. It's not. That's not enough.
Covenant's the same thing, but just doesn't look as good.
Yeah.
It's Covenant's more convoluted and isn't as cool visually.
Yeah, but it had
so.
Danny McBride in it, and he really makes that movie enjoyable to watch.
Danny McBride is not in the movie that much.
He's in it enough, and he's quite enjoyable, and he has a really cool death scene.
I was
No, that would be my ranking. It's clearly
Danny
Resurrection's the worst.
Danny
3
McBride
is.
dies at the end.
I think everybody dies. Doesn't he get stabbed by the? I remember him like bleeding out of his mouth.
The female lead goes into a pod.
So we just keep going.
The female lead goes into a pod with
I thought he dies.
David. Danny McBride might die because this last one I was really losing it. I was on my phone a little bit. I was watching Covenant this morning. I'm gonna be
He
honest.
sent me a picture with his squat rack in the living room squatting while watching
to
the
finish
movie.
Covenant. Yeah, I had to do my workout while watching it.
That's funny.
And I literally looked at my phone during the climax of the movie when they eject the praedomorph out of the airlock. So I'm not sure if he lived, but
That's
I know
how I felt through the first 3, honestly.
I know that the female lead lives because David puts her in a pod at the end, and she realizes it's not the guy whose name I keep forgetting, Walter. She realizes it's not Walter after she's already locked into the pod, and then he walks off and plays like Rheingold's, whatever. It's like it's kind of like it's the Gods Enter Valhalla song or something like that.
Oh, you're right. He didn't die.
He now sees himself as a god. Yeah, so
I
he
thought
lives.
Yeah, he was one of the ones in cryosleep at the end too.
So
I
does
thought
that
he
make
died.
it not as good for you?
Well, no, his acting is still. It's he's funny, and for some reason he
Because
just
his
makes
death
it work.
scene really stuck out to you. It sounded
He
like.
died in something for sure that I'm thinking of him coughing up blood. I just don't know what
You
that is.
gotta rewatch Covenant because he's like not funny in the movie. Like he's serious. He's not like dramatic, but he's
Yeah.
concerned about his wife, and then his wife dies, and then he bonds with the main character over their spouse is dying. Like
Yeah. He's good acting.
I think
great.
he's good. I mean, I think he's good, but I still think Michael Fassbender is the best part of the movie, especially because he plays Walter and David.
Yeah. But that'd be my order. Yeah. I mean, again, I only really ever watched the first two. Whenever you watch the movies, it's Alien and Aliens.
I love looking at Prometheus. I could push Prometheus up in my ranking. I just really like.
Yeah, it's
the
beautiful.
visuals and
The dude
landscapes.
knows how to film a movie, obviously.
Ridley Scott.
it's just
really
boring.
the only Ridley Scott movie that I really like though is Gladiator.
That is the only Ridley Scott movie that you like.
Yeah, I don't like Blade Runner that much. And
We had a good. Is it episode? End of the episode? Game over, man. Game over.
Aaron
We,
agrees.
we probably should wrap it up here.
Oh man.
We're creeping up there in time.
All right.
What do you guys think as the audience? Where do you rank all of these movies? Where do you rank the franchise? Do you like the franchise overall? Are you excited for the new one coming out? Let us know down in the comments below. Andrew, great job on recapping the whole franchise at the beginning. That was awesome. We appreciate your dedication in watching these 6 movies in the last 6 days.
the Reddit forums where I put in the real work.
Research.
We post new full episodes every Monday and Thursday. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and notification bell because we also have been putting out extra episodes and different types of videos. We have a challenge video coming out soon that's really cool where we recreated shots from a movie and then made our own short film with it. And that whole video is like the behind the scenes of how we did that. So that's a lot of fun. That'll be coming out soon. So don't miss it by hitting that notification bell. Andrew, where else are we?
We're on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. We're on X. We're on everywhere you can find social media. We post short form content every single day. So make sure you check us out and follow us on there. Make sure that you share us with friends and family because word of mouth is the best way to help the show grow organically. We want to find new listeners and build this community. Make sure that you like, follow, and subscribe on YouTube. Make sure that you go to, you want to do all of this, guys. Like it's very, very important. Go to Spotify, rate the show 5 stars, and follow us on there as well. You don't want to miss any of the awesome content. If we didn't already say, hit the notification bell because of the extra episodes.
Ding.
And you can also join our Discord, which, Aaron, how much is that running nowadays?
It is totally free.
It's completely free. And Shats, are you in the Discord?
I'm in the Discord.
He's a shadow member of the Discord.
I'm there.
Called out.
Join the Discord
I lurk.
and send a message to Shats to see if he'll respond to you and text him.
Come at me.
He's going to be watching his phone now. Turn the notifications back on.
You're in here with me.
I'm not trapped in here with all of you. Yes. Watch me reference. Great episode. Watch me reference.
Thanks for joining us, Shats. Thank
Thanks
you
for
so
having me,
much
guys.
for watching. And that's
That's a wrap. That was a quick and that's a wrap.